This is Anthony Soprano with part 2 of the Hellaware Assassin interview, and we're going to get right into it. Who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
My favorite wrestler growing up was probably Abdul the Butcher and Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody was, wow. I mean, just that's all you could say when you saw the guy. I went to the Harrington Fairgrounds in, I think it was 1983, maybe 84. And it was Bruiser Brody versus Abdul the Butcher in a steel cage match. It was my first time ever seeing a steel cage match, and I was ringside. It was on the horse track of the fairgrounds. It was dusty, dirty, stinking like horse shit, but I had a great time down there. You know, I even kept the chair that Bruiser Brody busted Abdul in the head with. You know, it might even still be out in the shed, for all I know. But yeah, that was most of my favorite wrestlers back when I was growing up. I just love that violence. I just love that. You know, that mean look and that nasty attitude that they carried.
Yeah. Alright, what would fans be surprised to learn about you?
That I'm an easygoing guy, man. You know, you can hang out with me and you can have a great time. You know, if you don't like me, you know, stay the fuck away from me. But, you know, if I like you, you know what I mean, and I'll hang out with you and shoot some pool, have a few beers, you know, hang out at the bars or whatever, and just do whatever you want. I'm a pretty easy guy to get along with. You know, I'm not about a whole bunch of drama. I mean, you piss me off, man. You'll see a whole side of me that you don't want to see.
What's the highlight of your wrestling career?
The highlight of my wrestling career? That happened in December. The highlight of my wrestling career will be Combat Zone's Cage of Death, 10th anniversary. And I'll be part of that Cage of Death, and I can't wait. I know that's going to be the highlight of my career. Right now, the highlight of my career will probably be wrestling Axel Rotten. You know, a couple weeks back, worked him at a show down south, and I went over and pinned him. Couldn't believe it. After about the third or fourth attempt to try to pin the man, I finally got the pinfall, and I won the Extreme Delaware Championship Wrestling Hardcore title.
All right. What was your training like, and how long did it take?
My training was pretty quick, to be honest with you. I accidentally pretty much got into the business. You know, John Zandig, owner of Combat Zone, was looking to find a place to do the first TOD, and my friend Jimmy Colesel owns Rack's Bar and Billards, which is now Bubba's, and he's a wrestling fan, and he knew that we were going to shows, and he knew that I had connections with some of the ECW wrestlers, and he said to me one day he'd like to have a wrestling event take place here at Rack's, and I made it happen. You know what I mean? I brought Combat Zone back to Dover, Delaware, and they did TOD 1, TOD 2 at Rack's, and then the rest is history. You know, we did about 6 shows at that bar 2 years in a row before the city of Dover put a band on us, but we made them work. You know what I mean? At least the TODs, you know, took place, and the rest was history.
Who were you trained by?
I was trained by John Zandig and myself. I pretty much, you know, I observed the other wrestlers and started, you know, doing, you know, taking bumps and, you know, flipping and falling off the top rope, and pretty much it came real quick. You know, it was like I brought Combat Zone back to Dover, and Zandig said, you know, I could work a match, you know, but I had to pick somebody to work, and it couldn't be one of his workers. I couldn't use one of his referees, so, you know, a good friend of mine worked me, and another friend of mine worked as a referee, and we put on a pretty good match. I would, you know, think we put on a good one, but it's the Havoc and Hellaware show that Combat Zone put on in Delaware. So.
Tell me about your debut.
My debut was Combat Zone's Havoc and Hellaware in Dover. That was pretty much my debut in front of a big crowd of people. So it was awesome, you know, to walk out amongst about 750 fans, you know, crammed in that parking lot at Rack's at the time. And talking about goosebumps and butterflies in the stomach, man. But it was all good to go, man. As soon as I came through that curtain, all that went away, and it was time to battle.
Who was your opponent?
My opponent was Steve C., a good friend of mine who works with a couple up-and-coming hip-hop artists here in Delaware, and they're trying to make a name for themselves. And yeah, it's my friend Steve. I went ahead and let him be my opponent. So that's it.
All right. Who are some known stars that you have already worked with?
Some known stars that I work with, really not too many, really. I mean, I've worked with, you know, the Necro Butcher. He's probably the biggest star on the independent scene. You can get the double DVD disc set that he's got out right now that Smart Mark Video put out, and you can get it by going to smartmarkvideo.com. You know, you can purchase the double disc CD set, and it's got Necro, Axel Rotten, you know, the Messiah, Madman Pondo, Nick Gage, worked them at the IWA King of the Death matches in 2005 in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's pretty much.
Who are some wrestlers that you would like to work with that you haven't?
Wow, there's a lot of them out there. I like to work Brody Lee. He's an up-and-coming star on the independent scene. He's a real big dude, 6'4", like 270 pounds. He's huge. I like working the bigger guys, because if you work the bigger guys that are pretty brutal and pretty violent, you know, whether you lose or you win the match, the fans respect you for what you came out there and you did. And you know, whether you took an ass whooping or you gave an ass whooping. Brody Lee, Greg Excellence, Wax. You know, there's some cats in the deep south I wouldn't mind working, like Tank, Insane Lane, Freak Show. You know, those guys are, you know, cats that I would like to work. I'm working Nick Gage October the 4th in Alabama for the IWA Deep South Carnage Cup. I'll be in that, so that's coming up.
And if someone was wanting to book you, how will you be available?
You can reach me through my MySpace page, or you can reach me, you know, on my email. My email address is walkingman042000 @ Yahoo. I know it's long. Or you can reach me through my MySpace. You know, it's myspace.com/Hellaware Assassin. I'm pretty cheap too. I don't cost that much, you know.
And if there's anything you'd like to add?
Not much, man. You know, just it's been a lot of things going on in my life. You know what I mean? Over the past 8 to 9 months, pretty much the past year. You know, that I'll get into as, you know, the interviews get a little bit longer. You know, some personal issues in my life that I'm gonna, you know, talk about and discuss. You know, it's just it's been a bad year, you know, and a little bit, you know, it's been some ups and some downs, but, you know, a lot of downs for 2008, especially back in January. So, but that you know, I'll talk about that later on.
Alright, this is Anthony Soprano signing off with the Hellaware Assassin for part 2. Be on the lookout for part 3 coming soon.